Welcome back. Okay, today we are diving into an explainer on something that honestly strikes fear into the hearts of parents everywhere: prolonged, uncontrollable infant crying. If you have ever found yourself standing in the middle of your living room at 2 a.m., totally exhausted, bouncing a screaming baby, and feeling absolutely helpless, listen, you are not alone. It's tough. In fact, modern parents actually have way less experience caring for babies than any generation before us. But don't worry, because today we're going to demystify this whole thing. We're looking at the groundbreaking work of pediatrician Dr. Harvey Karp to uncover the ancient evolutionary secrets to calming crying babies. So get ready, because we are going to learn exactly how to turn that daunting, stressful experience into a real moment of connection, using actionable, proven techniques. Let's get into it. This quote from Sheila Kitzinger perfectly captures how incredibly visceral and just shattering a screaming newborn really is. I mean, it is physically designed to get your heart racing, spike your blood pressure, and make your stomach completely tie up in knots. There's the story from our source material about a mother named Suzanne. Her 2-month-old Sean cried so relentlessly that when her sister finally came over to watch the baby, Suzanne literally bolted for the bathroom just to escape the noise. She actually fell asleep, curled up on the cold tile floor of her shower with the ice-cold water spraying right on her. You know that level of exhaustion? It is deeply real, and it is completely valid. But hey, there is hope, and I promise you don't have to sleep in a cold shower. Today, we have a very clear roadmap to solve this mystery and master the ultimate soothing toolkit. We're going to cover the crying survival tool, the dreaded colic mystery, the missing 4th trimester, nature's secret off switch, and finally, mastering the 5 S's. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the crying survival tool, and why babies scream. So when a baby screams, it is so incredibly easy to feel like you're failing. You start asking yourself, am I a terrible parent? Is my baby in pain? But here's the thing you need to remember. Crying is absolutely not a reflection of your parenting. Actually, it's an ancient vital survival tool. Think about it. Millions of years ago, a loud, brash cry was literally the only way a completely helpless cave baby could make sure its mother came running instantly. It's a huge clash between our expectations and reality, right? We all picture this peaceful, joyful welcome home, but the reality is often a red-faced, fists clenched, screaming newborn. And if you're dealing with this, please know you are in massive company. Every single year in the US, almost 1 million babies suffer from repeated, terrible bouts of fussiness for seemingly no reason at all. To really understand the crying, we need to look at what Dr. Karp calls a baby's 3-word vocabulary. Babies usually communicate in 3 stages. First, there's whimpering, which is kind of like a neighbor politely asking to borrow some sugar. Then comes crying, which is a bit more demanding, like a kitchen timer going off. And finally, shrieking, which is full-on glass-shattering burglar alarm mode. Now, your so-called easy babies will patiently work their way through this list, but fussy babies, oh, they lack that self-control. They blow right past whimpering and shift immediately into those loud, piercing shrieks. It's really helpful to think of a high-powered fussy baby like a smoke alarm. A mother from our source text, Pam, made such a great point about this. She noted that just from the sheer volume alone, you simply cannot tell if it's signaling a minor problem like burnt toast, meaning, they merely need a burp, or a massive house fire, meaning they're very ill. They blast out the exact same one-size-fits-all scream regardless of what's actually bothering them. Which brings us to section 2, the dreaded colic mystery, or what happens when the crying just won't stop. So, what exactly happens when you've checked all the basic boxes? You know the drill, you've tried feeding them, you've changed the diaper, you're holding them, you're bundling them up, and the baby still won't stop screaming. Well, that is exactly when desperate parents start to wonder about the dreaded C word. Yep, colic. The medical community actually uses pediatrician Dr. Morris Wessel's rule of 3s to diagnose this. A baby is officially diagnosed with colic if they cry for at least 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, for 3 weeks in a row. It is truly an equal opportunity parental nightmare, and it can strike any family, completely regardless of background, gender, or birth order. And the wild thing is, humanity has been utterly baffled by this for a long, long time. I mean, historically, people genuinely believed the baby just caught a draft, or, get this, maybe they got the evil eye from a jealous neighbor. Some folks even thought it was demonic possession or a punishment for Adam and Eve's original sin. Even Shakespeare took a guess, saying babies cry because they realize they've arrived on a great stage of fools. It's kind of funny to think about now, but it really goes to show just how thoroughly confused and desperate humanity has been about this mysterious crying for centuries. Thankfully, we don't have to rely on the evil eye theory anymore. Let's move to section 3,
the missing fourth trimester, and why babies are born 3 months early.
Think about a baby horse or a baby cow for a second. They can walk and literally run on day one. Their survival depends on having these big, strong bodies right out of the gate. But human babies? They are born incredibly immature neurologically. Because our species relies on big, smart brains, human babies basically have to be evicted from the womb 3 months early. Seriously, if they stayed in for a full 12 months to mature, their heads would quite simply get way too big to pass through the birth canal.
Because of that early eviction, a human newborn is essentially still a fetus who drastically misses the womb. We always do this thing where we tiptoe around and whisper when a baby sleeps, right? But consider the sensory environment they are actually yearning for. Inside the uterus, it was a totally different story. They were packed incredibly tight in a fetal position, they were being jiggled constantly with every single step the mother took, and they heard a continuous shushing sound from blood flow that was literally louder than a vacuum cleaner.
Okay, this leads us to section 4, nature's secret off switch, also known as the calming reflex. Traditional cultures like the Kung San tribe in Botswana have actually intuitively understood this for centuries. They carry their delicate babies in leather slings all day to quickly settle them in seconds without a second thought. What they are doing is tapping into the calming reflex. This is an automatic off switch that evolved for a very specific, crucial reason. Millions of years ago, if a fetus threw a temper tantrum and thrashed around inside the uterus, they could actually damage the placenta or get stuck sideways, which could be fatal to both the baby and the mother. So nature created this reflex to keep fetuses entranced and completely still. By mimicking the sensory environment of the uterus, parents can trigger this brilliant evolutionary calming reflex to immediately reset their baby's nervous system.
So how do we do that? Let's look at section 5. Mastering the 5 S's are actionable solutions. How exactly do we trigger this reflex in our modern homes? Well, we use the 5 S's: swaddling, side or stomach position, shushing, swinging, and sucking. But listen, here is the critical catch, and this is what trips up so many parents. These 5 time-honored steps absolutely must be done vigorously and precisely. If you just do them half-heartedly, they simply will not work. It's kind of like the doctor hitting a knee reflex with a little rubber hammer. You need exactly the right technique and the right amount of vigor to actually flip that switch.
Dr. Karp calls this whole process the cuddle cure. I like to think of it as a layer cake of comfort. Swaddling is your base layer. It sets the stage by wrapping them tight and keeping the baby from flailing around and overstimulating themselves. Then you place them on their side or stomach to stop that scary feeling of falling. Next, you add the thick layers of loud shushing and rhythmic jiggly swinging to deeply, deeply relax them. And finally, sucking on a pacifier or a finger, that is the icing on the cake, pushing them right into a state of profound peace.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be worried about creating bad habits, but let me completely relieve your parental guilt right now. You absolutely cannot spoil a baby in the 4th trimester. For those first 3 months, holding your baby constantly or using the 5 S's vigorously is not going to create a brat. You are simply replacing the 24/7 comfort and attention they were already getting before birth. You're just giving them what they desperately need to adjust to life in the outside world. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question. How does reframing a baby's cry from manipulation to simply missing the womb change your perspective on parenting? It's a pretty profound shift, isn't it? When you hear an infant scream, it's not a personal failure, and it's certainly not the baby trying to be difficult or bossy. It is simply an ancient biological plea for the reassuring layers of that 4th trimester. And armed with the cuddle cure and the 5 S's, you now have the exact tools you need to answer that plea. Thanks so much for joining me, and hey, here's to happier babies and way more well-rested parents.